we're going to work on this back part here. This is not actually the bumper, it's actually this green part in this picture, and then the bumper actually gets attached to the metal green part, and this part goes over then down some. There's a better view of this in the link in the description. There's actually a YouTube video where they show this car without this bumper and without the front bumper as well, so it's good to be able to see it like that so you can actually see the shape of this, because it's hard to tell with the bumper in the way. But we're going to be creating the metal part, which is just the green part that kind of goes down and then eventually curves back in. So it's going to look similar to this once we're done. So we're going to tab into edit mode, and the first thing we're going to do is actually just get rid of these bottom vertices. So we're going to select this one, hold control, select this one, then do delete and choose vertices. And we're going to select this one, hold control, select this one, then we're going to do S, Z, and then 0 and press enter. That's just going to make this flat on the Z axis. And we're going to temporarily disable the bevel modifier, and then we're going to do 3 for side view, Z for wireframe, B to box select and get the back of the car, and then do Shift H to hide the rest of it. So now we can do Control 1, and that'll give us a good view of the back view vertices and nothing else. If we left this on, it would give us all these extra edges and stuff. So it just makes it a lot harder to see what you're doing if you have this on. That's why we just temporarily turned it off. So we're going to alt right click on this edge loop, so this bottom edge loop, and you're just going to want to position it approximately right here, because this is the flat part, just where the bumper is, because this part's like a little bit below where the top of the bumper is. So if we just bring this a little bit below where the top of the bumper is right there, that's going to be pretty close to where it should be. The next thing I actually wanted to do, we're just going to do Alt H real quick and then A to deselect, is I wanted to actually add a bevel to these edges rather than using the bevel modifier. So if we go to edge select, you can see we have a bevel on these edges, but I'm going to actually make the bevel by hand instead so that we have more control of it. So we're just going to Alt right click on this edge loop, and then we're just going to press N to open up this panel, and you're going to go to the top, and we want to change the mean bevel weight to 0, so you're just going to left click and drag to 0. It's just easier to do it that way than doing Control 1, edge bevel weight. I don't know, it's easier to do positive values when you do this. At least for me, it's easier to do positive. You can do negative, it looks like, but it's just easier for me to do it this way. So you can just make sure this is 0, then press N to close that. Then what we're going to do is just deselect this edge, so hold shift, right click, and that'll deselect that edge. Then we're going to do Control B, and that's going to give us a bevel. Just do a small bevel like that, that's probably fine, so that there's relatively even spacing between these. So you just want to do Control B, and then there should be somewhat even spacing from this vertex to that vertex to that vertex. So that's kind of just how I did it. And then you're going to select this vertex, so you're going to go to vertex select, select this vertex, hold shift, right click here, and then do Alt M and choose that last. That's going to merge that up here to that last vertex. So now we have still a bevel here, but it's a little bit different than it was. And we did add some vertices, but this actually will add vertices too. So we're still having vertices, but we have more control of it this way than previously. So another thing I wanted to do is we're just going to select this vertex, hold control, select this one, continue holding control and select all these. So we're actually just going to bring these in a little bit in this direction, so towards the center, and just to add some curvature to this. If you go to top view, you can see it a little better. Like if you do Z for wireframe, it's actually got some curvature in this area. So we want to have this part right here actually be curved a bit. And you could even select these vertices here and just bring them over slightly again. I think actually I want to flatten these on the x-axis, so we're going to do S, X, then 0, and press enter. Now I'm going to bring this back a little. I'm going to select these vertices, then do S, X, and 0, and flatten those as well on the x-axis, and press enter. And then I'll just bring these back a little bit to keep that curvature right there, and that should be looking pretty good. You could, if you wanted to, towards the top, kind of bring these over a little bit more, kind of taper it a little, if you really wanted to, just to have it not be a straight line and then kind of curving to the left. It'll just be more of a gradual change that way. Next, we're going to go back to edit mode. We're going to select this vertex, hold control, select this one, so you have all these bottom ones. And we're just going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, and bring it out. You can do S, Y, and then 0 and press enter to flatten it on the Y axis. So if you want to, you can go to top view and then do 7, or Z for wireframe. So 7 on the number pad, Z for wireframe. And you bring this out to about here. That's probably decent. It actually does have some curvature, so the center point should be a little further out, and then the rest of these, if we deselect this one, the rest of these actually should be pulled in a little bit, and you could even pull some of these in a little bit as well, but we'll do that in a second because we're going to get rid of this vertex. So we're going to select it, shift select this one, Alt M, and choose that last to merge it over, because when you look at the picture, I don't know if you can see it in this really. Well, you can kind of see it on this part right here. So the part kind of curves out here and it eventually connects up to right here, which would be this part on our model. So we want this part to curve out and eventually connect to right there, as you can see right here. So that's why we connected those together. And then we're just going to add some curvature right here. We're just going to bring some of these in a little and just curve this slightly. And these 2 points, we don't really need 2 points here, so we're just going to select both of them, do Alt M at last, and then just bring this more to the center between these two, and then just create whatever curvature you think is appropriate. So something like that should be fine. So you should have a nice curve right here, and then this part in the center should actually be sticking out slightly further. And you can even do the same with the rest of this. Just select these vertices. You can go to top view if you want, Z for wireframe, and then just bring it to match up with the reference, because the center of the car does actually have a bit of an outward curve. Not much, but it's enough to be noticeable if you're paying attention. So the next thing would be just to bring these down to create the rest of this part, which is where the bumper connects to. The bumper would just connect probably here or something. So we need to bring these down and then eventually connect them over. So we're going to go back to edit mode. We're going to select this vertex, hold control, right click to select this, E to extrude, right click to cancel, and we're going to bring this down. You can do side view if you want, 3 for side view, just kind of bring this down. And then if you want, you can do Z for wireframe and then kind of match this curvature as best you can. But actually, yeah, that's fine. So we're just going to try to match this curvature a bit. Bring some of these up, kind of like that. But actually what I saw from the picture is that it's actually not this curved. Like, it shows it pretty curved right here, but in the real picture it kind of looks like it's not quite that curved in the real thing. It's more like something more like that. But we'll play with this a little bit later, so that's just going to be fine for now. And then to kind of connect this over, we can just do Control R, left click, right click, and that will allow us to select these 4, press F, and then these 2, and press F, and that will connect that over nicely. So now that we have this extra edge loop here, we can kind of put some more curvature to this, because if you look at the picture, or take a look at the video that I link in the description, which shows it better without the bumper, this part right here actually kind of curves in a little, so it has some curvature like this. And then these parts right here, we can actually bring in on the x-axis over like this. So it's kind of curved like that a little bit, very slightly, and curved like this a little bit. So it's not totally flat the way we had it. There is a little bit of curvature to it, so that just kind of makes it a little more realistic. The other thing I would do on mine, I don't really like the way this is shaped, so I'm just going to kind of bring this one up a little bit. And I'm just going to adjust the shape until it's something closer to what I like. Because I think this part does come up slightly. It does kind of curve up a little bit like that. But it's not too much of a curve. And you can also, if you wanted to, again, just go to wireframe, B to box select, Shift H to hide, Control 1 for back view, and you could compare it to this. Like, it kind of shows that it does come up a little like that, but I don't think it's really as extreme as what they show it in the picture, because if you look at this one, like, it shows like it might come up a little bit, like it kind of curves up slightly, but this one is kind of a different year, so maybe it's a little different, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't think this is accurate where it comes up really high like that. I haven't really seen that. So just kind of use your better judgment on that and take a look at the references and make your own decision. So I'm going to do Alt-H to unhide everything. Before we save this, we can actually just turn on our bevel modifier again. And another thing we could add if we wanted to is a bevel in this area. You can see this area at the bottom is beveled right here. And then this corner, of course, would be beveled where it's actually bending the metal back downwards. So if we wanted a bevel there, we could do it manually like we did right here. Or you could just Alt right click, Alt and Shift right click. And you probably want to do edge select actually so you don't get these middle edges. So you want to just do Alt right click, Alt and Shift right click, and then get these last two edges right here. So get these two. So you pretty much want this inner edge loop and then this outer edge loop. And you can do Control E, edge bevel weight, go till it says 1, then just left click, and you'll get a little bit of a bevel there. Or you could do it the way we did before where you just do Control B and do it that way. But I'm going to stick with this for right now, so we're just going to save it by going to File and Save. Thank you to our awesome Patreon supporters. If you'd like to become a Patreon supporter yourself, head on over to patreon.com/StephenBrooks. Thank you for your support.